Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, and this is our live event that we are focusing on yeast today. Many of you may know that I've decided to get more involved in baking and cooking. That is not traditionally where I come from. You know, I've made Christmas cookies and treats and things like that when the kids were little and we would bake together, but it really was a special occasion. I am not a baker. I am not a cook until now. So today is all about yeast, and we're going to be talking about the purpose of yeast. Now, this is not a cooking show. You are here because we're talking about career mapping. We're talking about all kinds of challenges that we face with our careers or in leadership or just in general when it comes to business. And so I promise you, hang with me, but I promise you that I will attach yeast to productivity of either you or one of your employees. So I'm in the editing stages of a book, which I've talked about openly for the last couple of months. And so Grace and Salt is in its, I think this is maybe my fourth time of going back through it. But the other day I was editing one of my lessons, which is about removing inactive yeast swiftly from your team. If that is, what you need to do, and not to hang on to that inactive yeast, because an inactive yeast, obviously I'm talking about unproductive or sluggish employees. And when you do hold on to them, it slows business down. So as I was editing and reading this, I thought, this would be a really good Facebook Live to have. So I have decided to start baking and get more involved in understanding all about the science of baking. This was a really good opportunity to bring in some cooking with my lesson today. So this is what we're here for. So with the power of television or cameras, I have made some yeast. I've made some dough with my new stand-up mixer, which, thank you, Michael, I love that. And so I have our ingredients here. I feel very far away from you, so I'm going to bring it closer. So I have ingredients here. We've got our bread flour, our sugar, and the star of the show. Okay, so I mixed earlier my flour with my sugar and some salt, and the most important ingredient in dough, which is yeast. So today I am making Valerie Bertinelli's garlic tie the knots. And these are really, I've made them before, very nice, light, airy, garlic buttered topping. And they are like a little bit like a biscuit, I guess you would call it. It's not bread, but it's probably a biscuit. Very, very good. I have also linked the recipe. If you want the recipe, I've also linked the recipe in the event on the Facebook page. So you can go there to find it. If you don't find it, just go to foodnetwork.com/Valerie and search for garlic tie the knots, and you'll find it. It's right there. Anyway, I this morning then made some dough up with my bread flour, my sugar, and my yeast, and I have let it rise. And so here it is. And the question we have today is yeast. What is the purpose of yeast? And so here is yeast. This is what it comes in. So this is fast rise, highly active. So this is highly performing yeast. And in my research of my book, I wanted to know, what does yeast do? What is its purpose? Well, the cool thing about yeast is a organism, live organism, that its sole purpose, like it's got one job to do, and its sole purpose is to eat the sugars in the flour and in the sugar in the dough and produce a byproduct, which is CO2, and that's air bubbles. And the air bubbles then create or make the dough rise. That's what makes the dough rise. So if you don't put yeast in your dough, you have unleavened bread, which is something that we eat for sure. Today, we're talking about yeast and leavened bread. So without active, in this case, highly active yeast, this bread will not rise to its full potential. And it will not be light, it will not be airy, and it will not be as delicious as it could be if it had old yeast in it. So active yeast has one job to do. It's aligned with the mission of rising dough. It agrees with that mission. It is active. This one says highly active. So it's running around, chomping the sugar molecules so it can produce the best air bubbles and make the dough rise to its full potential. You see where I'm going with this? Okay. So that begs the question, which I asked when I was writing my book. And the question is, does yeast have an expiration date? What happens if it's old? So in this case, this yeast has a best if used by, and it's best if used by September of 2022. So I'm in pretty good shape. I'm going to guess that I'm going to use all of this before September 2022. But what if I don't? What if I, if I forget about it and I decide that cooking and baking isn't really for me, and I forget. And then in September of 2023, I'm like, oh, I know I've got yeast around here somewhere, and I find it and I decide to use it. What happens? What happens? Well, what happens is inactive yeast. So this yeast becomes inactive and it becomes tired. It becomes sluggish. It doesn't have its tennis shoes on, right? It's just shuffling along. It is not aligned with the mission. It doesn't care if it eats sugar molecules. It maybe I'll eat one tomorrow. I know that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't want to. I don't feel like it. And the dough does not rise to its full potential. So you see where I'm going with this? I hope you do. Active, highly active yeast is like a high performing employee, right? It's aligned. It's got it going on. It knows this is the mission of my organization. This is the mission of my boss. And I'm here on this earth in order to make sure that that mission happens. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I am doing what I am supposed to be doing. That is a highly effective and highly performing employee. And those are the ones that you want, right? Those are the ones that you want, absolutely. But I'm going to ask you two things. One is, I am speaking to leaders who lead people, who lead teams. Now remember, everybody's a leader, from entry level to executive. Everybody in between is a leader. Even though you may not specifically lead a team of people, you are still a leader in your organization. And now if you're not working right now, which is very probable, if you're not working right now, that's okay, because this is still relevant to you. This may have to do with your family. This may have to do with an organization that you volunteer at, or this may have to do with your future. So I want you to be thinking from this two levels. One is the leader, like maybe you are the leader who leads a team, or maybe you're not. And then I want you to think about it as yourself, right? Personally, am I a highly performing employee? Am I aligned with the mission of my organization? Or am I, am I not? Am I tired? Am I sluggish? Am I, I know my boss told me that he or she, they wanted me to get 2 new customers in January, but have they checked the news? Do they know what's going on outside? I mean, there's a pandemic. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I obviously am not going to be able to get 2 customers in January of 2021 when we have just suffered and are still suffering, and businesses are still closed. I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that. I don't think I can do that. I'll call that customer tomorrow. Right? That person's not aligned with the mission. Now, maybe, okay, they might have something to, there might be something to the COVID thing, but all that means is you have to be a little bit more creative. You have to think a little differently to say, okay, how can I get these 2 customers? How can I do that in this world? Is there a way for me to do that, to still try and grow, or at least be performing and providing value to the organization? Okay, so if you're a leader of people, then I want you to think about this. I want you to take your staff and I want you to rate them 1 to 5. 5 being the absolute highly active yeast, the best ever. Like if you had a team of 5s, holy smokes, COVID, what? Doesn't matter. We got it going on. Or maybe they're at a 1 and they're like, I really don't want to be here. And sometimes when they work from home, I'm not really sure that they're working. But here's the thing. Somebody is better than nobody. Have you heard that before, right? Have you felt that before? I really know that they're not performing well. They are poor performing, but they're getting some work done. And so that's better than having nobody in that role. After all, I don't know that I can hire a replacement because of what's going on. There's a hiring freeze. So I'm just going to deal and work through this and hope they get better. Have you been there? It doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If they are truly not meant for your organization, or they've lost their mojo, they've lost their energy, they've lost their passion, and you know that you can't bring it back, or maybe it was never there, if they're not right for the organization, then you need to go through and validate your feelings. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we make these decisions on whether somebody needs to leave an organization or somebody needs to be put into a different role based on a rating scale of 1 to 5. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is the very first step. And the second step is to say, why? Why have they lost their mojo? Why are they in the wrong seat? Are they, is there family problems, whatever it is? And then you validate it with them. You validate it with them. You never make a snap to judgment or a quick decision on something so incredibly important and critical to not only the company, but to that person, right? You don't want to do that, but you do need to start somewhere. So if you're evaluating your team, do that. Evaluating 1 to 5, 5 being highly active yeast, 1 being kind of tired and sluggish and really not on the same program that we're on now, and see where they're at. And you're probably going to end up with several in the middle. I hope you don't end up with any ones, but you might. There might be 1 or 2, and you probably know them right now. And so then you have to ask yourself why. What is it that is providing that behavior? What is it that they aren't engaged in your team or in the organization any longer? And if it's you personally, then you need to go deep and just say, okay, what is it? Why am I doing this? So, am I not aligned anymore? What's the deal? Is it the company? Am I wrong for the company? Am I wrong for this position? When I was preparing for this Facebook Live, I did not anticipate this commercial. I didn't expect what I'm about to say to be a commercial for my upcoming course, but it really fits. And I feel an obligation that I need to remind you or tell you about my course. And many of you know, but maybe some of you have missed it and don't know about it. Tonight, I have my last masterclass, Finding Your Future in 4 Easy Steps. And it will also introduce you to my new course, which launches on February 2nd. Registration closes on February 1st at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for my new course, Break Free from the Career Comfort Zone. So this course is going to dig deep into the whys. Why am I why am I inactive yeast? Why am I trying to, is my purpose in life, what is it? I'm not sure what it is. Or maybe I've just lost that energy and that engagement, and I want to figure out what is next, either at my existing company or someplace else. What is next? And so this 10-week course will help you walk through that, and we'll go through deep analysis into yourself, into what your plans are, where your destination is, and where the gaps are. So if you're interested, please go to melissa-mccormick.com and you'll see a couple buttons. One button goes straight to the registration page for my course, and that will give you more information, detailed information as to what the course is all about, and you can register for the course there. Or to sign up for my masterclass tonight, where I'll go through basically a higher level of the module 1, so you can get an idea of what we're going to talk about, and you get an idea of me and my teaching style and all of that. And that's tonight at 6 p.m. So then go to melissa-mccormick.com, click on the button that says register for masterclass, select tonight's class, and then go through the registration program. It's pretty simple, and I'll see you tonight. So that's my little public service announcement. I did not expect to do that, but it really fit. If you feel that you have lost your mojo and you want to find it again, then I strongly recommend that you join me tonight for sure. But if you can't make it tonight, please join me in my course. And so back to our garlic tie the knots. So we have our star of the show, which is the yeast, our highly active yeast, or our productive employees that are very aligned and running around. They have been running around making air bubbles in this yeast now, or in this dough, for the morning. From here, we're going to take it. I have split it up. We're going to roll it and then tie it, literally tie it in a knot and put it on a baking sheet, which I have done here. Then it's going to go into the oven, and lo and behold, with the magic of television or whatever we're doing here on this Facebook Live, I happen to have some that will come out of the oven nice and brown. And so here they are. So there you go. That's your garlic tie the knots in a very quick, magical way. And it's also a lesson about yeast. So please do me a favor. Think about your own performance in your company. You do not want to slow business down. We can't afford that. That's what inactive yeast does. That's what an underperforming employee does. It slows business down. And if you're watching this Facebook Live right now, you're watching this recording, it's because you don't want to be inactive yeast and you really, 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 really want to be a high performer, but something just isn't right. Or maybe you've got a team and you've got a team member that just isn't aligned anymore, and you need to figure out why. You need to ask those questions and you need to validate it. So I wish you the best, and I thank you so much. And please remember, we need to stay on our toes. That's right. And move forward. Take care, everyone. It's been a great time.